Good evening once again. Yeah, so the last class we actually looked at I need to share my second screen. Okay, that's better. So in the last class we looked at activity lifecycle, okay, where we actually did some few coding stuff and everything, and then we got to understand the various states that an application can go through. We talked about when it's been initialized, we talked about the OnCreate, we talked about the OnStart and the whole of that. So we'll be moving forward. But before that, so when I gave you guys a task, I think I remember I did not implement something and I said you guys should try it out. I think it was just one person who actually did that. It was just one person who actually did that. And that was the share functionality. So let me just implement that and then we'll move on. So yes, when you want clicking on a particular word, so trying to use the share functionality. So I'm just going to do that very quickly. So I'm just going to say val intent. This is how you create an intent. Then intent. Then I'm going to let me use. Okay. So let me just call intent.action view. This action view. So that should be underscore view. Yeah, and then we'll now pass in our query URL. And then I'm just going to, so I'll use my context because this is not really an activity. So context dot then start activity, and then I'm going to pass intent. Okay, so that should actually just do that. And then I think there's one more thing I just want to add. Okay, so now let me just show you guys something. Is that a magnifier? Why is this magnifying? Okay, sorry. Okay, so in a recycler view, there's something we can do. It's just kind of like a divider to divide between, each items, just in case, like, well, for us, we actually added this space, but assuming this space wasn't there, we can actually just make use of what we call a divider. And that is, because I think we'll do that for the detail activities. So I'm just going to say recycler view. Okay, so there's this add item decoration. Yeah, so it just adds a divider between the items. This is a useful thing that you can use. So we're going to call divider, divider item decoration. And then it actually takes in a context. So I'm going to pass this and then divider item decoration. So I want it vertical, should be the orientation for that. And then one last thing I'd just like to add is, so there's this, let's see, I kind of want to, there's something I want to do. Okay, so let me see something outside of this. Okay, so there's this title, like to set title, and then that is for the app bar. So I just want to set title, and I'm going to say words. Let me just use words that starts with. Okay, so I think I'm going to just concatenate this. So just want to make that whole thing look a bit at the space, and then I'm going to pass the letter ID. Of course, that's not addition, it's just concatenation because we're dealing with strings. And of course, yeah, you can just use a string template for that. Okay, so let's just now see what this does before we move on. Let's see, before we move on, just those few changes. Okay, so I have to install and restart. Okay, so So clicking on, let's say C. Okay, so we have that words that starts with C. So that's the set title. So this title gets from the method set title. So it actually, and then we'll pass the letter ID. Okay, so the reason you can't actually see this line, like I said, we're already, demarcating these guys a lot. So assuming they were different, you'll be able to see that. But that's just one thing you can also just add to make your application a bit more, that is the word beautiful. Okay, so that's that. I just wanted to add that. So today we're going to be looking at something different. Okay, today, so of course, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of Git stuff. You have to learn to collaborate. So so let me see. So just want to push this stuff, and then let me find out something. Okay, yeah, so I think I've added the stuff. So git commit -m. Let me just say. So assuming you were actually working, maybe your own job when you're collaborating was to implement share button, your commit message should actually, say what exactly you did. And then I'm just going to push this. I'm still on the startup branch. I think I should be able to just do a git push since it's not a new branch. Okay, so yeah, that's that. So today we're going to be looking at something else. We're going to be looking at fragments. So I think let me create a new branch. So let me call it fragments. And then, okay, so yeah, let's work with this. So we're going to be looking at fragments today, and we'll see how to work with them. I don't know, maybe most of you must have heard about it. Okay, but if you haven't, then it's fine. So, of course, in the last class, we talked about activities and we also talked about intents, okay? How to navigate between two activities, okay? We looked at that. Okay, so while that is actually very cool, okay, it's not really all of it. It's not the whole picture. Because the thing is, so many Android applications don't actually need a separate activity for every screen, okay? Not all applications need a separate activity for every screen. In fact, most of the common user interaction patterns, such as tabs, okay, bottom navigation manager and bottom navigation rather, okay, they all exist within a single activity, okay, and they use what we call fragments. Okay, let me show you when we'll talk about the tabs. Let me use the emulator. Okay, so a typical example is the dialer. Where are you? Okay, this. Yeah, so of course you have favorites, you have recent, you have contacts, and so you don't, when moving to favorites, you're not actually creating a new activity. You're not moving to a new activity. When moving to this, you're not using to a new activity. So this is an example of this is kind of an example of bottom navigation also. So also tab layout. Okay, but the tab layout is more for some of us that use WhatsApp. Okay, that's kind of like an example of the tab layout. So they use what we call fragments. Okay, they use what we call fragments. Now, so what are fragments? So let's go. So fragments is it's a reusable piece of UI. That's basically what fragments are. They are reusable pieces of what UI. Okay, and they are embedded in one or more activities. So they are reusable piece of UI embedded in one or more activities. Okay, so just like I told you here in this, so tapping on each of these guys does not trigger an intent. It doesn't trigger an intent to display the next screen. No, it does not. Okay, so instead, what we are basically doing is that we are just swapping from this fragment to this other fragment and vice versa. And all this thing happens without having to launch another activity. You're still in the same activity. Okay, so it's possible to show multiple fragments at once on a single screen. Maybe if you have a very large screen, yes, you can actually want to do that. That's for tablets actually. That's where you can have the navigation on the left and then the content, on the right. So That's basically what fragments are, and actually they are very, very integral when it comes to building high quality applications. Okay, instead of having to create a lot of activities, you could just create one and then have several fragments that makes use of that what activity. So basically what we're going to be looking at, we'll just be learning the basics of fragments, and then we'll convert this our dictionary app to make use of fragments. And the second thing we're going to learn also is what we call the Jetpack navigation components. Okay, and then we'll use that to actually work. So for the word navigation, how can we move from one fragment to another? Okay, so let's dive in and see how we can work that out. So like I said, a fragment is it's just a reusable piece of an application's user interface. Now, just like activities, okay, fragments have a life cycle, and they can also respond to what user input. So just think of fragments as a subclass of activities. You can just think of it like that. Okay, so fragments they're always contained within a view hierarchy of an activity when it is shown on screen. Okay, now they have this emphasis on reusability and modularity. Okay, so it's even possible for multiple fragments to be hosted simultaneously by just one single activity. Because one thing about fragments is that each of them, they manage their own separate life cycle. So what is the fragment life cycle? Okay, just like activities also, the fragments can be initialized and they can also be removed from memory. And throughout their existence, okay, they appear, they disappear, they can also reappear, just like activities, okay? And they also have several states. So this is basically a fragment life cycle has 5 states. The initialized state. Now, the initialized state is when a new instance of the fragment has been instantiated. It has the created state. Okay, so this is the first fragment lifecycle method that it's called. Now, at this stage, the view that is associated with this fragment is also created. That is, every view associated with that fragment is created. Right there, any view at all, text view and the rest, view groups, they are all created. Then we have the started state. Okay, at this point, the fragment is visible on the screen, but it does not have focus. We talked about that. Not having focus means it cannot respond to user input. And then we have the resumed state. That means it is visible and it has focus. And then we have the destroyed state. Okay, that means the fragment object has been de-instantiated. Okay. Now, also, just like what we have, let me just open this up. Where did we run that stuff? Okay, I think we did it in. Okay, we did it in the other. I think when we were doing a test run. Okay, so we looked at having what they call it. Looked at the OnCreate method. We looked at on start, on stop, and the rest when we're talking about activities. So in Fragments has other methods that you can override to respond to lifecycle events. Okay, we have the OnCreate, of course, we've talked about that. Now, the next, we have the OnCreate view. Okay, so this method is actually where you inflate the layout. Okay, and at this point, the fragment has actually entered the created state. Now, the next state is the onView created. And at this point, this is called after the view is already created. So in this method, this is where you actually bind some specific views to properties. It's at this point that you use your find view by ID or your binding dots, whatever. So it is in the onView created. So well, recently we rarely use onCreate view. We just go straight to making use of onView created. Okay, so but let's just move on. Now, then we have the onStart. Of course, you know that on resume, we have the onPause, and we have the onStop, and then we have the onDestroy view. Okay, so this is just called after the fragment enters the destroyed state. The view has already been removed from memory, but the fragment object still exists. So remember, you create the fragment, okay? It has to now create the views. So when you want to destroy it, it needs to first of all clear the memory. The view has to be removed. before the fragment is being what? Destroyed, okay? So, so it's actually similar. The difference there is the onCreate view, on view created, and then the undestroyed view. So it's just like view just being added to that. So let's actually just go straight into implementing this stuff. Okay, we've talked a lot. So let's create a fragment. How can we create a fragment? Okay, just like activities. Okay, every fragment will have two files: the XML file, which is for the layout, and a Kotlin class to display the data and handle user interactions. Okay, so we're going to add a fragment for both our letter lists and our word lists. Remember, our letter list is actually it's inflated in the main activity, and then our word list is our detail rather, yeah, is the list of words is inflated in the detail activity. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's add a fragment. Let's want to make use of fragments instead of what? Activities. So how do we do that? Okay, so it's pretty much simple. So on our package, I'm just going to right click, go to new, and then we have fragment. So well, you can actually just go to gallery, and then you see that you can create a lot. There's a template, a lot of templates. You have the blank, full screen fragment, you have Google AdMob, Google Maps, settings, modal, login, and then fragment list. So this just comes with some predefined templates for you to build on. So, but we're going to be using the blank, and then I'm going to say next. So what do I want to call this? Let's call it letter list fragment. Okay, and of course the layout name is going to change also. So I'll just finish that up. Okay, so I want to add this to. So yeah, so this is it. So this is our letter list fragment. Well, we're going to be removing a lot of codes that we don't need. Okay, but before that, let's see. So we don't need a lot of these things. So I'm just going to go straight into removing what we don't need. So you can actually just take out the whole of this. Okay. So the only thing we'll just need for now is our class declaration, which is this letter list. Okay. That's just basically what we're going to need. Okay, let's follow convention. We don't need, let's take out OnCreate and then take out this companion object. Okay, so we just have OnCreate view. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. So of course it will also create the layout for us. So okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so it created the layout file for us. So we're going to do the same thing. Let's create a word list. So a list of words or fragments. Let's just say blank. So say word list fragment. Okay, and then that. So okay, so just finish that up. Okay, so clear this out. Let's clear this out also, and let's clear this out. Okay, so yeah, okay, so that's that. So that we have actually just created a fragment. Okay, we have created a fragment. Okay, so well, okay, let me just let's see. I feel like taking out that guy. So okay, let's take it out. Let's take out this. For now, let's just have only those two. Okay, that was for word list, and this is for letter list. Let's take this out. Okay, so well, now we've been ordering stuff. So let's create a package. So we can actually have, so for the package, okay, so come to the example of dictionary and then fragments. I can use an S. So that creates that. So I'll just drag this into the fragments and just click on refactor, move that in, drag this into fragments also, click on refactor. Yeah, so I think it's a bit more organized. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so now this is what we're going to do. So remember, we're just moving everything we have implemented based on activities, we just want to transfer it to the fragments. Okay, first, let's do that first. So I'm just going to, I'll copy the contents of activity main.xml because this is where we have our list of letters. Okay, so I'll just copy the contents of this. Now, but when you're copying, you need to pay attention. If you look at this, the context here is main activity. Okay, the context here is main activity. So in as much as you're going to copy that, we're not going to use that context. So so this is for the letter list fragment. So let's use this. Yeah. So the list of letters. So I'm just going to paste this. So for this context, our context is not activity dot main. So our context now is fragments, which is this package. Fragments, which is the package, dot then the name of our class, which is the letter list fragment. That's the context. Yeah. So I think that's fine. So that's the first thing. So let's do the second one, which is the detail. Let's take out what is in the detail and put it in the word list, which is a list of words. So I'm going to paste this. And of course, the context has to change also. So yeah, instead of activity, the package we have is fragment. And then that's fragments, yeah. And instead of detail activity, we have word list fragment. That's the context. Okay, so that is that. Yeah, so I've transferred the layouts. Yes, the layouts. So the second thing we'll do now is to implement. Let's now implement the letter list fragments. Okay. So just like our activities, okay, we basically just, it's still a class. So we basically need to inflate the layout and then bind the individual views. Okay, but there are just very few minor differences when working with fragment lifecycle. Okay, and then our work will actually talk about that. So first of all, we need to implement view binding now in the letter list fragment. Okay, we first of all need to get a nullable reference to our fragment letter list binding. Okay, now binding classes, of course, we have used binding, so it's generated automatically. It's generated by Android Studio as far as once you just put in the dependencies. Okay, it is generated by Android Studio. Okay, so this is just what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say private var, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to use an underscore for this variable. I'll call it binding. Okay, and its type is of fragment. Let's see if we have that. Yes, letter list word binding. This is generated because we have view binding is already activated. It has already been set up. Okay, and then we'll set this to be equal to null. This is the first thing we'll do. Since we want to implement view binding, it's the first thing we'll do. Okay, now because it's actually nullable, okay, every time you try to access this variable, this property called binding, okay, which is like, for example, binding dot maybe a particular view in your UI, okay, we'll need to include our nullable, which is a question mark. We'll need to include that for null safety. Okay, I think we've talked about null before. We'll include that for null safety, but well, it doesn't mean you don't need to litter your code everywhere with question marks just because of one null value. Now, the thing is, if a certain value will not be null when you access it, you can actually append this to it, which is a double quotation. That if you're very sure that the value will not be null, you can actually access and append this to its type name. Okay. So, well, we'll get to actually look into all those things, but I would actually advise that you limit, if at any point you get to see this, limit this variable, making this, we really try to reduce it, because it's it's just good. It's a good idea actually to limit its usage to just a few places where the value won't be null. Okay, it's fair advice. It's advisable for that. It's advisable for that. Okay, so because it can assessing a nullable value in this manner, like if the value is going to be nullable and you want to assess it in this manner, it's actually dangerous. It can actually cause your app to crash. So try as much as possible to use it sparingly. Okay, so that is that. So now we need to create a new property, okay, called binding. But this time now to be without the underscore. Okay, to be without the underscore. So now at this point, remember we said something that in one of the methods in the life cycle, based on states, we talked about the onCreate view, okay, where you actually would create your rules. But we'll talk about onViewCreated, and that's where the whole binding thing comes into play. So we'll just go straight into onViewCreated rather. Yeah, onViewCreated, good. And this is where we're going to inflate our listen. So before that, okay, let me do this. So I'm going to now create a private. Let me create a private variable, say val, and I'm going to call this one binding, but without the underscore. Okay, and then I'm going to introduce something I've not seen before, get, and then I'm going to do this. Now I think I'll just add this here. So let me explain. So basically, what we're doing here, the get here, it means that this property binding is get only. Okay, it means the property is what get only. That means we're going to get the value, but once we have assigned it to this particular once it's assigned here, you cannot assign it something else. That's basically what we're doing here. Okay, once you assign it here, you cannot assign it to something else. Okay, so now the thing is, one thing to note is that in Kotlin and actually programming in general, you often encounter property names preceded by an underscore. This typically, what this just means, it means that that property isn't intended to be accessed directly. Okay, that's what it basically means. It means that that property it's not intended to be accessed directly. So in our own case, we'll access the view binding in our letter list fragment with the binding property. Okay, but however, this young man with the underscore does not need to be accessed outside of this class. That's just basically what this whole thing means. So now let's now do something else. So we need we're going to implement rather onCreate. So now in our onCreate function, that's what we inflate what we call bring in our menu button. Okay, so there's a method called set has option menu. Okay, and then we'll say true. So basically what we're saying is let this fragment have a menu functionality. Okay, and we can just do that in the onCreate method, so that on creating this fragment, it comes with that also. So let's now actually let's now work with this. So remember we said something. So the layout is actually inflated in onCreate view, but we can actually just do it also in our onViewCreated. So we're actually going to use onViewCreated here. Now I'm going to now call this binding the underscore, and I'm going to say fragment letter list binding dot inflate. Okay, dot inflate, and it takes an inflator as a parameter. Okay, which is the layout inflator. Okay, and then the parent, well, let's see. I think we can just call this. Let's see. Few things. Okay, it's because so yeah. I know why. So what and what do we have here? Okay, yeah. So Okay, so let me use this for now. I think it's better I use OnCreate View, so I won't confuse you guys first. So let's just use OnCreate View. I think I'll explain much later when we should use. So let's just inflate the layout here. So okay, binding equals fragment letter, okay, dot inflate, and then let's pass in this inflator, which is this first parameter here of type layout inflator. And then the next thing to pass is the container. And then the last thing is attaching it to parent. Of course, we don't want to do that, so we'll just say false. Okay, so okay, unreachable code. Okay, sorry, we're supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do this. Of course, when you say return, any other thing outside return is going to be unreachable. So yeah, so let me put this. Sorry, this is supposed to be here. Okay, good. Now, I want to create a variable called view. So I'm going to say val view, and then I'm now going to use. Now, I'm not going to use this binding again because everything is going to this. I'm going to use this particular one, which is this. Now, because it now gets this value, whatever is stored here. And because we are now using this one, you cannot assign anything else to it. Okay, you can't assign it because we're just using a normal, var variable. Of course, var can be modified. Okay, but with this now, using this get and everything, they get only property, and then you can't assign anything else to it. So I'm going to say binding dot root. So I want to bind the roots, and the root represents the root layout of our this fragment letter list, which is the frame layout. So if here was constraint layout, it would be constraint layout. That's the root. Because if I show you on design, you can see this is the first. So it's the view group here. So that's the root. Okay, so where are we? Yes. So binding dot root. And then what I want to return is the view. I don't want to return the whole super dot that. So I'll then return the view. Okay, so well, there's actually a inline variable. So you can just follow Kotlin and then return binding dot root. That makes it easier instead of having to create a variable all over again. So that's also fine. Okay, so now so below our binding property, we'll now create a property for the recycler view. Okay, just below this, let's create a property for the recycler view because we need it as a global variable. So let's init var recycler view of type recycler view. Okay, fine. So then the next thing, so let's now go to on view created and then bind all these views. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the thing, but moving forward, we'll now make use of on view created directly, and then I'll show you how to use. So let me show you the on create view, and then we'll show you how to just go straight into using on view created. Okay, so here, remember we said it's in on create view will now what bind our views. So I'm just going to take out this whole thing, and then I'm going to say, so for our recycler view, is now going to be binding dot recycler view. So this particular one here, this is from our letter list fragment, which is this recycler view that was created here. Okay, so maybe I'll just say recycler view letter, kind of so you won't think both of them are the same. Okay, so yeah, recycler view letter. Okay, good. So you won't think that, which one is recycler view? I'm binding the recycler view. Okay, so and then just like basically what we're just trying to transfer everything from letter list, right? So that is main. So this is basically what we're just doing. We're just transferring it there. Okay, so the next thing is to call the choose layout method. But we don't have it here. Okay, we don't actually have it here. So I can just create it. Well, some of you have done this before. I can just create the function. Okay, and then let's see. Let's just leave that. So let's just skip. I want to now call my onDestroy view my on-destroy view rather, not on-destroy. On-destroy view, good. So in on-destroy view, basically what I want to do is that I want to now set this binding to null. I want to set it back to null. So this is me releasing the mem, releasing what has been stored. Remember, binding holds IDs, okay, to every of your views. So once this fragment is, one wants to destroy this fragment, okay, first of all, it should clear and release resources. So release all those things you're holding. That is basically what we are doing. Basically what we're doing here. Okay, so now another very different thing. So for the choose layout, let me just pick that up. Where do we have that? Okay, so choose layout. This is what we have. Well, we don't have these other ones. It's linear layout manager and everything. So let's just move. So let's just move that. Okay, but before that, okay, let's just move. So let me just copy all of this down to the OnCreate options, and then, oh, sorry. So let's just move all this, I think, down to this place. So just copy. Okay, let me take this out. And then let me put this above here. Let the on-destroy be down. Okay, so yeah, we have a lot of red, so we'll fix that fix that briefly. So first of all, this is linear layout manager. It's meant to be a Boolean because we created it here. So we can just copy this and then put it at the top. Okay, so that should take out that error. And then, so there's a slight difference now when it comes to our OnCreate options menu. Okay, so it doesn't use this particular one. So let's take this out. So basically what we're going to have, let's implement that. So OnCreate options menu. So this one takes a menu and then an inflator. So let's do this. So first of all, I'm going to now say inflator, which is of type menu inflator dot inflate. So this is a bit different from the other one. So and then what do we want to inflate? R.menu dot menu layout, and then we'll pass in our menu. Okay, so we're just trying to just bring in what we had there. I think we can just copy the rest. What's the rest? Okay, which is this. So just copy this. So in fragments, we have for activities, we had just menu of type menu. This is the only parameter we have. But in fragments, we have menu of type menu, and then we have inflator. That's the basic difference. So okay, so we don't need this again. So we don't need that because it's not nullable. Here it's not nullable, but for this one, it was nullable. Okay, so what else? So we don't need to return anything because this function doesn't return anything. So we'll take that out. Okay, so we still have an error, okay, which is this. Okay, it doesn't recognize. So for the context, so this is not an activity. A fragment is not an activity. Okay, so and context usually refers to activities. Okay, so fragment is not an activity. So what we'll just say in this fragment, we'll say this dot require context. So that will just require the context and give you what you need. So require context. Okay, so that is fine. So what other error do we have? Okay, same thing here. This dot require context. This dot require context. Okay, so I think that's that. We don't need this. We don't need this. Okay. So I think we're fine. We have a green here, tick, so that's fine. So we have successfully just transferred, everything we have from our main activity to our letter list fragments. Okay. So now that is actually that. So the next thing we're going to do now is to migrate what we have in our detail activity, to our word list fragment. Let me bring this here. from here, yes, down to our word list fragment. So it's basically this. It's basically the same thing. So let's do it one by one. Let's do it one by one. So I'm just going to copy this. Let's start. Okay, I can just copy this, and then so whenever you're copying codes, you need to also be very careful. Okay, you need to be very careful. Okay. So we just need to make sure that the reference to this search prefix, by the way, this search prefix can be const. Yeah, good. Why isn't it const here? Should be a constant. Okay, so we just need to make sure that this search prefix is actually is referenced to our search prefix in the word adapter. So if I click on this, well, it doesn't see it. Well, we'll do that. So this, if you notice, this takes us to the word adapter. Okay, but on the word, okay, so yeah, but in our word list fragment, it's not taking us there. Okay, so we need to make sure it is updated. So how do we update it? Well, in our word adapter, instead of detail activity now, okay, let's see something. Can we say word list fragment? Yeah, so okay, so yeah, that actually solves that. That solves that. And then let's just move. Okay, so okay. Okay, so well, one thing that I've not done, let me just do it now. So since we have moved stuff from main activity, we can actually just delete all these guys. So let's just delete. So the only thing I'll just leave, I'm going to leave just, I'll take out this choose layout. So take this out. So I think this is just what I need here. How many set content view do we have here? Yeah, so yeah, this is just what we need. So I can just close this out, and then we're already done with letter list. So let me just close it. I have a lot of things that open here. We're done with this activity detail. We're done with this one. Okay. Fragment word list. For now, we are done with it. Okay, fragment letter list. Okay, so this is what we are dealing with. So let's concentrate on that. And then, okay, so what next? Okay, so let's add our binding variable. Let's add our binding variable the way we did it before. Okay. So just the way we did it before. So let's just do that. Sorry, I actually got a message that I wasn't expecting. Okay, so word list. So yeah, so let's just do that manually. So private var underscore binding, and this is of type fragment word list. Fine. Yeah, good. So, and then we'll make it null. Okay, so that is that. Yep. So next thing, let's call our OnCreate view. Okay, good. So we want to return. So I don't want to return, the whole of this. So okay. So before that, okay, yeah, we're missing something. We need to create a private var binding. Okay, and this is going to have the get and then the underscore binding. Okay, so, and then let's inflate this young man. So I'm going to say underscore binding is now equal to our fragment word list. Okay, yeah, dot inflate. Okay, yeah, so, and then we'll pass in the inflator pass in the container, which is actually the view group, and then we don't want to attach it to the parents. We'll say false. Attach it to the parent, yes. So what we're going to return now is binding.root. Okay, so yeah, we actually now have to, so this is requiring us to, so that's because it's possible for that to be nullable. So let's replace it with this. Okay, and that's because, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so what's the next thing? Okay, so yeah, I know the reason why we're not supposed to have this, and that's because, okay, yeah, so that's that. Okay, so let's see. Now, something else that we have missed, okay? This letter, okay, back in the detail activity, this letter, in our letter adapter, this is where it's in is. So we have to update this to be word list fragment dot letter. Yeah. Yes. So okay, that's fine. So how about this one? Okay. So yep. That's fine. Okay, so let's move on. So the next thing we need to do is to implement our onViewCreated. So onViewCreated, try to see how I can go as fast as I can. Okay, so onViewCreated. So let's so that's where we'll actually do the whole binding thing. So let's see. So this with the layout manager, with the adapter, with this other guy. Okay, let's just take only these guys. Okay, so I don't need this super stuff here. Okay, so yeah, so we have errors to fix. Okay, of course, well, it requires context, but it found word list fragments. So say this dot require context, this dot require context. Okay, so now in our fragments, we need to get this letter ID. Okay, now let me show you this letter ID here is gotten from, in our OnCreate where we had this intent.getExtra and the whole of that. Okay, so we need to still get this. So we have not done this actually, so I think I missed this out. So let's just, so instead of the whole of this, I can just do this. Instead of that, I can just say I'll get the activity from get activity. So it now gets the fragment activity, the activity where that fragment lives. I can just say activity dot intent, okay, dot get string. Okay, okay, let's see, why is it saying string extra? Okay, sorry, after intent, then dot extras, yes. Dot extras and then get string. Okay, good. And then I'm going to now say letter. Okay, so yeah, of course, we're going to have a lot of, so, well, there are two ways, wrap with a .let, but let's just do this. It's basically null stuff. So I think adding a null here. Let's see. So does it solve that? And then, of course, we need to convert it to a string. Okay, yes. So because it's a string. So this does require context also. So okay. So, and then of course on destroy view to release the resources. So binding was null. Okay. So well, and then we haven't, okay, so our onCreate. So let's just do, okay, no, that's fine. This doesn't have, we don't have a menu for that. We don't have a menu for the word list. So let's do that. So with this now, we can now delete, we don't need this detail activity anymore. No, we don't need it anymore. I think we have taken everything we need, except we want to just add this, but I don't think, let's see, can we just add this? But apart from that, we have taken everything we need from here. So this is still taking us. Okay. So yeah, so we can now delete this detail activity. We can now delete it. Okay. Sorry. So I'm just going to right click and then delete. Okay, so save, save delete. So I'll just do that. Let's just delete that. Okay, so we are still having details. So where we have detail activity, I think we should have word list fragment. Yes. Okay, good. So that's that. So we don't need it anymore. So that's why we are deleting. So we'll also delete the XML file. We don't need it also. So delete that. Okay. So it doesn't exist. So since it's an activity, of course, it's in the Excel manifest folder. So also delete that from here, from our manifest folder. Okay, so that's that. Don't worry, you won't see fragments here. Okay, so yeah, so now we have two fragments, which is our letter list and our word list, and then we have just one activity. Okay, just one activity. So this will now take us to learning about navigation, the Jetpack navigation component. Okay, so now what we're going to basically do now is how can we move from one fragment to another? How can we actually get to do that? Okay, so the Jetpack navigation component, let's talk about it. So it basically just provides navigation components to help you handle any implementation that has to do with navigation, whether simple or complex. Okay. Now, your navigation component has three very key parts, which we're going to be using to implement navigation in this dictionary app. The first one is the navigation graph. Your navigation graph is basically an XML file. Okay, it provides kind of like a visual representation of navigation in your application, in your app. Okay, it consists of destinations. These destinations actually correspond to individual activities and fragments, and also actions between them that you can use in your code to move from one destination to another. Okay, so just like our normal layout files, okay, we also are going to be using a visual editor to add destinations and actions to our navigation graph. Okay, now the second thing your navigation component has is what we call a nav host. Now, a nav host is used to display destinations from your nav graph, which is your navigation graph, within an activity. Okay, so when you navigate between fragments, the destination that is shown in the nav host is basically updated. Okay, and then we'll be using a built-in implementation called nav host fragments in our main activity. That's what we're making use. We'll use that. And then the third component, the third one, is the nav controller. The nav controller, it's the nav controller object. Basically, it helps you to control, it allows you to control the navigation between destinations that is displayed in the nav host. Okay, when working with intents, we have to call start activity to navigate to a new screen. After creating your intent, you need to call start activity. But with the navigation components, we'll call what we call the nav controllers. We'll call a method called navigate. Okay, it's actually the nav controllers method. So we'll call the nav controllers navigate method to swap the fragment that's displayed. The nav controller just helps you to handle, tasks like responding to the system up button. Okay, well, I'll show you what some people call back button. That is the arrow button on your app bar. When you want to go back, okay, it's actually called up button. to navigate back to a previously displayed fragment. Okay, so let's just go straight and add that. Okay, so well, we're going to need to add certain dependencies. I think did I add it before now? I don't think so. Let's go to let me go to the build or Gradle file. To the project level. Okay, so yes, so we have just the nav version and Kotlin version. So we're going to add sorry, yeah, okay, we already have it nav version. So I think I implemented it already. I added it, so I won't have to. So this is basically the nav version, and then the class parts. So these are things you need to add to your Gradle. Okay, it's the navigation dependency. Okay, and then in the app module, then you need the okay, I think this is where I didn't actually add the stuff. So let's just add it. Okay, so implementation. Okay, so Android X dot navigation navigation. Okay, and then fragments. Okay, KTX. Okay, so I think created a nav version. So I'm just going to do this and call nav version, right? Let's see. Okay, so let's see, what am I? It's like you're trying to substitute a version variable by using this for Groovy. So you must use double quotes. Okay, so I think it requires, okay, yeah, sorry, double quotes, yeah. And then the second thing we'll need to add, I'm just going to duplicate and then change fragments to UI. Yeah, that's just that. Yeah, UI KTX. Okay, so that is the dependency we're going to add. Then there's this plugin called Save Args. Okay, yeah. So when you're using this thing, we used extras. Yeah, we use the extra method. Okay, like when we first implemented the navigation in the dictionary app. Okay, we used explicit intent between activities, and then when we wanted to pass data, between the two activities, we called the put extra method, right? Then passed in this other. So before for this one, for fragments, we're going to be using, we'll add this, there's something called the Save Args. It's actually a Gradle plugin that assists with type safety when passing data between fragments. Okay, so I'm just going to add that to this place. Okay, so okay, so let me just say, I don't want to give it a version. And I think I might actually just have to switch this. Okay, so let me just say Android. I hope I'm Android X dot navigation dot save args dot Kotlin. Okay. So I would have, let's see. I think something. Okay, well, I'm actually using ext though. If I wasn't using ext, I would have just done, sorry. Okay, just done ID and that. Okay, but let's just see. I think I need to. Okay, so I have it here. Okay, so well, but it's fine. I think I have it already in my class path, and then it uses the nav version. So I don't think I need to put this UI. Okay, let me see. So let's sync this and then let's wait for the Gradle to download and the rest, and then we move on. Okay, and for this you require it's good to have internet access. You require that. So so after this, so once that is done, we'll go straight into using this navigation graph. Okay, we'll go straight into using that. So the navigation component, just to reiterate, okay, is it's just a collection of tools, okay, for implementing navigation, particularly between fragments, actually. So we're going to be using the visual editor that Android Studio provides to implement navigation between fragments. So let's just dive into that. Okay, so just to okay, so okay, I think I'm sorry, just need to check something. Okay, so I think it's done. So let's move on. Okay. Okay, so the navigation graph, okay, or in short, for short, nav graph, okay. So it's just a virtual mapping of your app's navigation. That's basically what it is. So each screen, okay, or fragments, okay, in of course fragments, we're using fragments now. So of course your fragment, what is displaying something is a screen. So each screen or fragment that we're making use of, it becomes a possible destination that can be navigated to. Okay, so a nav graph, it can be represented by an XML that just shows how these destinations are. So let's just go straight. I'm going to go to my activity main.xml. So let's just see it. Okay, good. So instead of making use of this what they call it, frame layout, we're going to use what we call fragment container view. Okay, so because destinations from your nav graph, okay, they are displayed to the user by the fragment container view. So we'll just make use of that. So what we just need to do is to create an XML file and define possible destination. So let's do this. So now, because our layouts, okay, is contained in our fragment letter list, and then is also contained in the fragment word list. Okay, remember we have, let's open that up. Remember we have the fragment letter list, which is the list of letters, okay? And then we have the fragment word list, which is the list of words. So because we already have that, okay, our activity main.xml does not really need this again, okay? It doesn't need to contain the layout for the first screen. It doesn't need that. So instead, we'll actually make it to contain the fragment container view, okay, so that it will basically just act as our nav host for our fragments, okay? So from this point, actually, all the navigation in our app will take place within the fragment container view. So I'm just going to take this off, okay? And then I'm going to just, okay, basically, I can actually just, just take out, we don't need this actually. So I'm going to replace it with fragment container view. Okay, so let's see this. Okay. So of course it needs an ID. So the ID will use nav host fragment. Sorry, let's just see small letters also, nav host fragment. Okay, and then of course it needs a width, which is very required. So for the width, we're going to say match parent. And then for the height, we're going to say match parent also. Okay, so that's that. So now the next thing we're going to add is a name. Okay, now we need to add a name attribute. Okay, and then we're going to set it to, I'm going to say Android X dot navigation. This is a default dot fragment dot nav host fragment. Okay, so well, you can actually specify a specific fragment for this attribute. Okay, but just setting it to nav host fragment kind of allows your nav control, your fragment container view to navigate between activities. So it's always good to use the nav host fragment. Okay, then one other attribute we'll add is default nav hosts. Right, default. Okay, that should be for the app namespace. Yeah. So default. So we need to add this. Okay, it's not bound. So create namespace declaration. Yes. So default nav host. Sorry. Okay, and then we'll set it to true. Yeah, okay, so that's just one thing, okay? So basically what this does is that it allows the fragments container to interact with the navigation hierarchy. That's, for example, if your system has a back, if the back button is pressed, then the container will just navigate back to the previously shown fragment. Okay, that's basically that, okay? Then another attribute we'll add, which is going to be the nav graph. Okay, that's for the app. So the nav graph, that should be small letter. Yeah. So the nav graph, okay, we're going to set it to something. We're going to say, let's say at navigation, all right, slash, and then let's say nav graph. Sorry. Okay, yeah, nav graph. So now the thing is this, these particular attributes, okay, it points to an XML file that defines how your app's fragment can navigate to one another. Okay, for now we are seeing error. Okay, we'll add it, but it actually points to an XML file, okay, that defines how your application's fragments can navigate to one another. So, but we'll get into that. But the last thing we need to do, okay, well, I think that's basically that. I've already added that. So now let's just go straight. Let's now set up our nav graph. Let's create our nav graph. Okay, let's create a nav graph. So how do we do that? Okay, so very easy. Just click on File and then New. Okay, so okay, no, not this particular place. So you need to click on our resource. Where do we have resource? Yeah. Okay, yes, resource. So that's basically where. So we're going to say File, New, and then I'm going to choose Android resource file. Okay, and then for the file name, I'm going to use nav graph because that's what we created there. Nav graph. Okay, yes, and then the resource type is going to be of navigation. That's why we said at navigation / nav graph. Okay, so that's basically that. So yes, so that's that. So let's create that now. So just click OK. Okay, so this is it. This is the editor it gives us. Okay, but just to confirm, yeah, we don't have this error again. So that means this XML file actually exists. It exists. So this is what we have. This is what we have. We have our editor. So let's now, create. So to add a new destination, because the nav graph contains destinations. Okay, that's why I say click. So it says click this to add a new destination. So we're going to add a new destination for each of the fragments. okay? And we have two, the letter list fragment and the word list. So we already have two of them here. So so the first thing that I want to be displayed, of course, is, so I'm just going to, let me just click on the two and then I'll show you something. And click on this also. So just arrange them. So anyone that has this home icon becomes the first fragment that will be loaded, that will be displayed. Okay, that's just for you to know. Okay, so that is that. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is to create a navigation action. Well, I've just created destinations, but we need to create an action. Okay, so to create an action, okay, between the letter list and the word list, this is basically what I'm just going to hover on this. So you see this circle that just pops up here. So I'll just click on it and then drag and touch this other guy. Once it's highlighted, I leave it. So it creates an action that you can see here. The action is from letter list fragment to word list fragment. That is the action. Okay, so you can also do vice versa. Okay, you can also do vice versa. You can also click on this from word list to go back to letter list, and that creates another action. But let's see what is contained in the actions. So let me start with this one, the letter list to the word. Okay, from the letter list to the word list. So we can actually now specify arguments for our word list fragments. Okay, let me do for this one. Now, when we are using navigation for activities, okay, okay, someone is asking, what if the fragment is more than 3? What is the identity for the second and more fragments if home icon is for the first? Okay, so the home icon, like I said, is just the fragment that will be displayed first. Okay, that's why I can actually decide to, like, if I click on this and click on this home icon, that means I want the word list fragment to show first when I'm launching. So it's, even if you have 5, there's just one home icon, just one activity that can be the home. Okay. So I hope that actually answers your question. Okay, let's move on. So, when we're navigating between activities, we used intent, and then we now specified an extra, which is like an extra message, so that when the selected letter, you can actually pass it to the next activity. So, we're going to do that also, so that when you pass in a message or an argument, rather, okay, to the word list fragment. So navigation also, it supports that, the whole passing of parameters between destinations, okay? And it actually does this in a safe way, in a type safe way. So I'm just going to select the word list fragments destination, okay? And then, which is this, okay? And then under this arguments, I'll show you just that, hold on. Sorry, just to do something. Okay, so yeah. So let's do that. So for this one, let's use this. Yeah, so for this, so you have this argument, default behaviors, and the rest. Okay, so let's add, I'm just going to click, well, nothing to show, so I need to click on this rather. Okay, so there's nothing to show. Yes, okay, so for this one, let's see, animations, and then this pop up too. So it doesn't have any argument. Okay, so let's do something. We need to add an argument. We need to add an argument. So let's see. So we should be able to, I need to look for, so where is that young man? Okay, let's see if I can use code for this. Okay, so sorry about that. Let's confirm something. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see. So I think I would kind of just use code for this. I'll use code for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's keep. So now when you're passing in something, okay, of course you want to receive it on the other end. So on this word list fragment, okay, I'm going to add an argument on the word list fragment. I'm going to add an argument. That's basically what I'll just do. So that's where we do that. Okay, so what will be the name? The name is letter, just like we had before. Okay, the name is letter and the type is string. Okay, well, it's not an array, it's not nullable, so we can just leave that. Okay, and then just click add. So that adds an argument here for us. Okay, it adds an argument. So that means that this word list fragment is expecting a letter, is expecting a string. That's basically what that means. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. We have the start destination. That's why we have this home icon. So it's basically the start destination. Okay, because the truth is your nav graph, just like this person said, what if you have 3 or more destinations? Okay, of course it's possible. It's actually aware of all of them. Okay, but it needs to be able to know which one to start from. It cannot display 5 at the same time. It needs to know which of the destinations to start from. Okay, that's why we now use this home icon to set it out. Of course, we want it to start with the letters first. Shouldn't display words. We should start with the letters. Okay, so that's that. So now the next thing is this. Let's now perform this action, this navigation. This is basically what we'll just need to do for now. Okay. Now the thing is, well, at this point, I'll just rebuild this project. Okay. This is basically just going to generate some code that is based on our navigation graph. Okay. And it's basically, of course, you have to create it so that you can make use of this action. You need to create it, rebuild, so we can make use of this action. So when you rebuild, okay, it will just generate code. Some codes will just be generated for you based on your navigation graph that you've created. Okay, so that you can basically use the action that you created. So okay, so that's building. So while that is building, so where do we want to work on the movement? Okay, so of course it's when you click on a particular letter, you go to the word. That is, and that is actually implemented in the adapter, which is the letter adapter, where we had in our unbind view holder. So if you notice, we're using intent dot put extra and that. So we don't want to use that. We don't want to use intent. Okay, we don't really want to use intent anymore. So I'm just going to clean up all these things that we have here. I'll just clean up this because we don't want to use intent. Okay, so it's done building. So now, what is the action? How do we now, when you click on a button or a particular letter, it takes you there? So I'm going to create a variable called action. And there's this class that was generated. Let's see. Let's hope it's okay. I think it hasn't been created. Let's see. Let's list fragments. Sorry. I need a class directions, and I think it has not. So that means there's something. Okay, sorry, this should be action. Okay, so this class has not been created. So let's try rebuilding project once again. But before that, let's check our nav graph. And okay, so let me delete this action. For now, we don't need it. We don't need that action. This is basically, so yeah, we don't need that action for now. So let's rebuild this again and then hopefully get that class because we need it. That's what basically we need, that class. Let's see. Because the letter list fragment, that directions class, it helps you, it lets you to refer to all the possible navigation paths in that your class. So let's see if we have that now. Let me see. Still don't have it. Okay. Okay, I think I may have to. Okay, let's see something. Let's see. Let me see. Let's be sure. Let me be sure that everything works. So in our fragments, we have letter list. Okay. Okay. And then we have the ID. Okay. Okay. And then we have here an argument. Okay. So it looks good. Yeah, everything looks fine. So, okay. Well, at this point, I may just have to. So yeah, this is all part of debugging. So let me clean this project first. I hope the cleaning is done, and then let's try rebuilding it again. So I just hope there's something I'm not missing out in my Grado. Okay. Okay. So I think it's done building, but I need to so let's see. If we can't find it, then I'll have to go to my Gradle and check if there's something that I didn't do. Well, okay, so it's not there. So let's go to the Gradle and see if we're missing something. Okay. So let me just open up the two. Okay, so for the navigation, a newer version is available. Okay. Okay. Yes. I've seen this. Okay, so we don't have something here, which is this young man, this nav graph. Yeah, so we're missing something. So yeah, we're missing something. So we should have it, the navigation save args here. Navigation save args Kotlin. Yeah, we should have this. Yeah, we should have this. Okay, so let's check. So let's just check our Kotlin version. So they said a newer version, which is 2.3.5. Let's just update that. Okay, so we're using 0.1. So let's move to 0.5. Okay, is anything navigation? I think we're fine. Let's see. Okay, so let's sync this now, and then let's see what's up. That's interesting. Okay, so that's building, and let's just wait for that to build. I don't have JCenter here. Okay. And do we have material version? I think we should. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, material. Okay, so still building. So let's just hold on a bit. Okay, you need strong internet connection though. Okay, so while that is actually building, of course, if you have questions, you can just ask. Of course, we have questions. So basically, we're just trying to get. Okay, so let's try that again. If we don't, and then we'll just rebuild and then see. Okay, yeah, so we have it now. Letter list fragments, directions. That's good. Okay, so basically this lets you refer to all the possible navigation paths starting from your letter list fragment. Okay, so I'm going to let's now save. So I'm going to create an action variable. So letter list fragment directions dot which particular action. We want the action from the letter list to the word list. Okay, and then we need to pass in a parameter because the word list is expecting an argument. So I'm going to pass in letter here. Okay, well, for now, let's just give it a value. Let me just say B. Okay, let's just say B for now. Okay, and then so that's actually that. So it's now going to pass in B. B is what is going to take in over there. Okay, now so the next thing is so once we actually now have a reference, okay, we now have a reference to the action that's to be taken. So how do we now move with it? So basically, I'm now going to say holder, okay, which is from our letter view holder, which holds all the views. So holder dot, I need to get the view dot find nav controller. Okay, remember we talked about nav controller, and then dot use the method, the navigate method. So what do we want to pass in? The navigate method takes in a lot of things actually, but basically it takes in the action. You can see directions down here. So what direction? Of course, we created an action variable that stores the direction. So that is actually that. So when you click on a particular button, when you click on the button, it takes, from the action that's been created, it works with that. Okay, so but we need to now configure our main activity. Okay, we need to really configure our main activity. So let's just do that. Let's do that as quick as possible. I'll soon be rounding up. So in our main activity, let's just move down. So I already have it. So we don't need this. We don't need this stuff again. We don't need this too. So I'm going to create a late init variable, and I'm going to call it nav or navcon. That is short for nav controller, and it's going to be a type of nav controller. That's the type of that variable. Okay. Then in so after we set the content, okay, after we set the content, so we'll now get a reference to our nav host fragment. Remember our nav host fragment from the activity main, so we'll get a reference to this. Okay, so I'm going to do that and store it in a variable. So let me say, first of all, let me say nav host fragment. Okay, nav host fragment equals, so there's what we call support fragment manager. Okay, so it's a fragment manager, it's a method. Okay, so support fragment manager dot, now what do we want to do? We want to find the fragment by its ID. So which fragments do we want to find? Well, basically it's just the nav host fragment. Okay, and then we want to cast it as a nav host fragment. That's just so that's basically that. So with that, then I'm now going to call my navcon, which is a nav controller, and then I'll say nav host fragment dot, and then I'll call nav controller. This is from the method get nav controller. Okay, so we're just saying, okay, fine. This is basically what we're saying. Okay, so no, you know what? I'll explain that. So let's just finish up. Then let's do something. I'm gonna do this. So basically, what we just did, we just got a reference to the nav host fragment. Okay, which is the ID for the fragment container view, and then we'll assign it to our nav controller property. That's just basically what we did. Okay, then one other thing we will do in our OnCreate method, okay, is to call what we'll call, let's say, set up action bar with nav controller. So we want to set up the action bar, okay, with our nav controller. So we do that, and then we'll pass in this navcon that we have, which is our nav controller. Okay, so basically this just ensures that the action bar, that is the app bar, the buttons there, just like you have your menu option. Okay, this just ensures that it is visible. That's basically what that is. Set up the action bar with the nav controller. So it just ensures that your app bar buttons, okay, even that your menu option is visible. Okay, and then finally, one of the things we now implement is we'll override one method called support navigation up. Okay, this actually returns a boolean. Okay, but we're not going to return the super dots. So this is basically alongside with our default nav host, that we set to true in the XML. This method is what handles your up button, which some of you maybe know it as back button. Okay, the one on the app bar. Okay, it actually handles that. So what we want to do is that we want to return. I'm going to call my nav controller, because that's what I used to control dots. There's a method called navigate up. Okay, that's go to the previous fragment. So either you go to the previous fragment or you go to the very first fragment, so which is the super. So we'll call the super dot on support navigate up. So either of those two. So if there is a previous fragment, it will go there, else it will just go to the default fragment. Okay, so well, at this point, all our components are actually in place to actually get the navigation working with the fragment. Okay, so now that we know that navigation is used to perform, that navigation is actually performed using fragments instead of intent, we use navigation. Okay, so but our intent extra for the letter that we used in the word list fragment to no longer work. So what we're going to do now is to update our word list fragment so that we can get that letter argument. Okay, so that is just that. That's that. So let's do that. Let's now get the arguments. Okay, so in our word list fragment, when we were using the detail activity, okay, we used activity.intent. Okay, like in fact, yeah, we use activity.intent. Where is that? Okay, so this is basically what we did here. One wanted to access that letter. We did activity.intent, okay, to access the letter, that extra. Okay, this actually works, but it's not really the best practice. The reason is because fragments can actually be embedded in other layouts. And when you have a very large app, it's actually difficult to assume which activity that fragment belongs to. Okay, so basically when navigation is actually used, performed using navgraph, and you're also using your safe arguments, okay, there are actually no intents. So trying to access intent here, intent extra, is just not going to work. Okay, so that's why we actually have the safe arguments. It's actually straightforward, and you don't even have to wait to for the view to be created. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to create a letter ID. I'm going to create a late init variable, meaning it's going to be initialized later. I'm going to call it letter ID, and it's going to be of type string. Okay, it's going to be of type string. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to now, in my OnCreate view, okay, yeah, in OnCreate, okay, because you have to get it in OnCreate. So in OnCreate, this is basically what I'm going to do. So there's this, I'm going to use what we call arguments, which is from the method get arguments. So arguments, then I'm going to say dot, I can just say dot let, okay, so I can access, and so I'm going to say letter ID, okay, which is the variable that we created. So now I want to initialize it. So I'll say it, which is the bundle dot, so it dot get string. And then what am I getting is the letter. Good. Of course, we need to convert it to string. So, well, so of course, this is possible for this to be nullable. So I think I'll just adding this here makes it fine. Okay. So I think I'll just add that there. So, because it's actually possible for arguments to be optional. So we actually now using the let. So if you notice, we actually call let and then passing a lambda. We talked about that before. So basically, this code will just execute, assuming that the argument is not null. Okay, so we're passing in the non-null arguments for the it parameter. But if the argument is null, the lambda will not execute. That's why we have this. So if it's actually null, this lambda will not execute. It's null. But if it is not, then it will what execute. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's now see. So of course we have talked about bundle. So but for some of us that were not in the last class, so we said bundle is just a key value pair where you have a key and then a value. Okay, and it's used to pass data between classes such as activities and fragments. Okay, remember fragments is also a class, and we've already used bundle before when we are using intent in the first time when we're using activities. Okay, so now so finally we can now access this letter ID here. We can now access it when we set the recycler views adapter. Okay, so where did we do that? Yeah, we did it here. So instead of saying word, saying activity dot all this and everything, so I'm just going to say letter ID. Sorry. I'm just going to say letter ID. Yeah, that's fine. So let's finally run this app. Oh, I've done a lot of things. So of course you can just take your time and go back and watch through this video again. And then if you have questions, of course, I'm open to answering. So let's see. Let's run our application and see how far we have gone. Okay, so still building. So yeah, if you have questions, of course, just ask, and then we'll do justice to that. We're rounding up. Yeah, actually rounding up. Just yeah. Okay, so any questions while that is running? Okay, so I believe there are no questions. Okay, so while that's running, the one more thing that we're just going to do is to actually update fragment label. Okay, of course, when you so yeah, I'll have to install and restart. Okay, so I hope everything is fine. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, there's one thing we're going to work on, the fragment label. Remember, you can see we are seeing fragment underscore letter underscore list. So update that to what it should be. So let's see. Well, click on A. Okay, so we have B here. And the reason is because we actually passed in B. So where did we do that? We did that somewhere. I think that should yeah. So here, this is where we did it. Okay, so we passed in B. So we need to give it something. We don't need to give it a. We don't need to hard code it. So this is what we're going to do. So we want to get the text of that particular whatever text is on that button. So I'm going to say holder, okay, dot button dot text and then dot to string. So that's what we're going to assign. That's what the letter is going to be. Okay, so that's that. So we've already figured that out. So before we run, let's now fix the labels at the same time. Let's just quickly update the labels. So we'll do that by just going to, well, first of all, in our string.xml, we can just do that straight up. Instead of having to go to the nav graph. We can do it from the nav graph, of course, but let's just do it from strings. So, okay, yeah, so here that we have this, okay, where is it? Okay, look up word switch, this, okay, so I think, so let's see, let's look at, okay, yeah, so this is hard-coded actually. So the label, fragments this. So instead of this, we can just, take this out. So for the fragment, the letter list, I think what we should have there is Um, let it be the app name. Yeah, let it be the app name. That's on the first screen. Let's see the app name. And then on the second screen where you have the list of words, we should actually see should see words. We can actually just see words. Okay. But I don't want just words. I want something like words starting with then maybe this. So let me do something. Let me do something. So let's extract string resource. So the resource name can be, let's say, word label, word underscore label. Okay, good. So let me go to let's go to the strings. Okay, so instead of these words, I can now, let me see words that start with, okay, so we need a letter, words that start with maybe A, B, or C, but so let's just do something. I need to call the letter variable. So let's see, I'm going to pass, let me call letter, and then let's see if that works. Let's see if that works, and then let's see. Okay, so run this, and then let's see the changes we have, if everything is fine. So it's running, and then that's okay. So okay, I have to reinstall and restart. Okay, so yeah, dictionary app demo, which is the label name. So when we click on A, so we have words that starts with A. So the reason this works is because it's actually seen this, it now sees this letter as a variable. And of course, we have that, you know, in where is that guy? We have letter, yeah, we have used it. We have created a companion listener. Where am I missing something? Okay, yeah, where? Okay, yeah, letter. Okay, yes. So it actually sees it as a variable, and then it finds that variable. Okay, so let's see something. Okay, so that's basically that. Any questions? Any questions before we round up? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're out of time. So any question? Okay, so that's basically that. Okay, Manuel, go ahead.
Yeah, the search implementation that you did.
Search.
Yes, was it on this app? I think it was on this app we did that search.
Search or share? Search or share. Okay, yeah. So clicking on, yeah, so it works actually. Yeah, sorry, I've not tested it. So where you have to click on a word, right? Where is that young man? That's the word adapter now. So this share intent, yes. So this is it. Sorry, I think I didn't test that. So when you click on, let's say we want to look for the meaning of anecdote. I don't want to have to start creating Chrome. Okay, let's just light mode is on. Don't want to sign in. Yeah, so it just takes you to google.com, and then, well, not a robot. Am I a robot? No, I'm not a robot. How many of us does this are tired of saying this thing? Okay. Okay, sorry. With bicycles. I beg, is anybody saying bicycle here?
It's none, so you can skip it.
Okay, so yeah, it now searches for anecdotes. Yeah, so that actually works. So yes, the back button, which is, so this is what we call up button. Yes, so this is the up button. So clicking on it, it goes to, the previous fragment. So if you had opened 4 fragments, when you click on the up button, it goes to the previous one. But if there's no one, it just goes straight to the main. So for B, well, let's see the meaning of, what's the meaning of books, search books. Yeah, and it takes you to Google and everything. So that's actually that's cool. That's cool. It's pretty cool. So in the assignment, you guys didn't implement. I think it was just one person that implemented the search. The share, yeah, the search rather. Yeah, sorry, search.
It wasn't an assignment. You just said we should go and practice with it and show.
I said in the assignment, I said do everything. I remember saying you guys should try this out. Well, I guess some of you didn't actually know. If you had known, you would have done it. So imagine, I know you would have actually gone to try it out. So that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so yeah, so summarily, we've talked about fragments. We just said they are reusable pieces of UI, okay, that are actually embedded activities. We looked at the life cycle of a fragment, okay, and how it kind of differs from that of an activity. We, of course, introduced the fragment container view that is used to, embed fragments in other activities. What else? We talked about navigation components. Yeah, where we talked about nav graph, nav controller, and the rest. Okay, so okay. Well, let me just not. Why do I feel like I should give assignments now? Should I give based on this, or maybe based on what I'll teach next on Thursday? Okay, I think I'll give an assignment based on this. Yes, I'll give an assignment based on this, but let's see how it goes. But that's basically just an overview, okay? I'm just trying to introduce us to certain things. Of course, subsequently, we're going to do more sophisticated stuff. Trust me, we will. But I'm introducing us to the basic stuff with, that we can do in fragments. At least you've known how to create fragments, and of course, the whole navigation thing and passing of arguments and everything. So, well, that's basically that for fragments. It's not like that is everything concerning fragments, okay? But this is the basic thing you need to know, at least creating it and how to navigate between both of them. So, yes, I'm going to give an assignment concerning this. I'll also give an assignment on Thursday. So that means I'm going to have to grade 3 assignments to move you guys to the next stage. It's nothing. So next on Thursday, we're actually going to be looking at view model. That is architecture components. Yes, we're going to be looking at view model next on Thursday. On Thursday, yes, we're looking at view model. So you can go and prepare. Yeah, that's fine. You can go through and so we'll look at view model, and then if time permits, we'll also look at live data. Live data with view model if time permits. So basically, view model is just storing your data in view model. If time permits, we'll look at live data in view model. If time doesn't permit, then I think live data will come in upper week. And then, yeah, we'll also talk about shared view model. Okay, and then we'll come back to navigation actually, where we'll look at the back stack and everything. So that is that. Yeah. I just actually gave you guys an overview of what we're going to do from now till Tuesday. Yeah, so we need to really finish up and get that out of the way so that we can go into much complicated stuff like coroutines and how to get data from the internet and display it on your phone. Okay, how to load images from the internet. Well, there's a lot we have to do. I need to get us to a place where we are project ready. But like I always say, you can still go back and work on stuff. There are resources out there. Okay. I kind of try not to really give out resources per se, because it kind of, of course, some of us might think, okay, well, it's our trainer, this is why he gave us that. That means it's the main one. But no, I kind of allow people to look for resources. Of course, if you need a guide, sure, I'll be there to help. If you say, okay, fine, this is what I want to use, I'll offer. But I don't like to just give, so people will not just focus on that and feel like that is the ultimate. I like people to learn to research, because as developers, man, you need to be able to find stuff, because you hit roadblocks that if you do not know how to find stuff online, you understand, to really choke you. So So that's basically that, guys. That's basically that. So any question before we're rounding up? We are done actually. So just questions, and then we move to close for tonight. Okay, so in the absence of none, okay, I'm going to. So thank you everyone for coming. Mr. Samuel, thank you for being available. Chibuzo, Judah, Fola, Emmanuel, Opala, of course, the two Emmanuels, the two faithfuls. Okay, Adenka, good to have you. Abigail, thank you for repenting. I hope this repentance stays long. Okay, so just look out for the assignment on the stage channel. I'll drop it, and then Abigail, go and do your assignments. Every other person, if you haven't done it, please go and do it. So thank you guys very much, and do have a wonderful night rest.
Thank you so much.